Hello, podcast people. Well, better yet, pod people. Hello, pod people. How are you doing today? This show is going to be about municipal internet. Last week, we talked about the United States and all the problems we have with affordable internet access in the United States. And we mentioned that we would get to municipal internet this week. And we are. So hold on tight and we'll find out all about municipal internet around the country. Where is it? What are the problems they're having getting it put in certain areas? How certain legislators are making it a headache for certain localities. We're going to get into all that. But first, I wanted to talk about a podcast that I'm going to be on as a guest this week to talk about cord cutting. I'll be on the Money Girl podcast as a guest. It's hosted by Laura Adams. She's a personal finance expert. She's written some books about it. She's a speaker, and she hosts the Money Girl podcast. Basically, her show is about making it really easy to understand complex financial topics, much how we try to make it really easy to understand technical topics. She's got a really good show. She gives some great advice. She's been featured on NPR. She's been on CBS, NBC, Fox Business, CNBC, Bloomberg. She's been featured in the New York Times. So it was really an honor to be on her show. And I really suggest all you listeners out there, you should check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's supposed to air on September 21st. So if you're listening, that's this Wednesday. So check it out. Let me know what you think. You can email us always at podcast@groundedreason.com. You can tweet us at groundedreason, or you can go to our Facebook page. All the links will be in the show notes. So, all right, let's get this show on the road. Okay, so we had an episode on the state of the internet and internet access in the U.S. We got into, who the big dog is in the world, and that's South Korea, and how they're light years ahead of us when it comes to broadband access. And we talked a lot about Google Fiber and how they are moving into various areas in the country. And miraculously, every time they do move into an area, all of a sudden, all of the competitors, like the big dogs, Comcast and your Time Warner, all of a sudden can deliver these amazing speeds that people have been craving.
It's funny how that happens.
So and today we're going to talk about municipal internet because there are quite a few places out there that have decided that they're tired of waiting for high-speed bandwidth, high-speed internet.
I was actually really surprised how many communities are working on or really seriously considering up to and including putting out RFPs right now.
Yeah, requests for proposals.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. We're acronym unfriendly here, or we're supposed to be.
Right. So today we're going to talk about municipal internet and how municipalities, communities, towns have, and some big cities actually, have gotten together and attempted in some cases and actually succeeded in others of putting together their own municipal broadband service for the community. The biggest gem out there, I would say, is Chattanooga.
Yeah, it seems to be the poster child for leading the charge right now. Wow, mixed metaphor. Yikes. It's the big one right now. It's as far as I could tell, it's the largest population, round about 170,000 people in Chattanooga.
And do you know the date that they did that? I know it's been quite a while. 2011.
It was
right?
2011 when they started rolling it out. I forget the name of the project.
Well, the nickname is the gig. Because that's what you get. You get a gigabit of internet for $70 a month.
Sounds pretty sweet to me.
The community got together, talked to their representatives. They decided that the public wasn't being served by the poor. I think Comcast was their provider.
Yeah,
and
that sounds all right.
Yeah, and they weren't getting the speeds needed, so they kind of got together and put together this municipal internet project, and then lo and behold, Comcast started delivering equal speed in no time flat.
Yeah.
Pretty much like turned it on.
Yeah, that's the thing is they've got what's really frustrating about it is the pipes are there.
Oh, yeah.
Right? To deliver the speed, it's there.
Yeah, the infrastructure's there.
And so now the big advantage, and actually if you're interested, we can include it we will include it in the show notes so you can check it out. But there is a report that was put out by the White House back in January 2015. So that's how serious, at least the federal government is taking this, about all the benefits of community broadband, economics and...
well, I mean, when it comes down to it, we're in the information age.
Yeah.
So just like, I mean, we were talking about this a little bit off air, but back, during the industrial age, it was decided that everyone needs electricity.
Yeah. And actually, again... Tennessee was one of the Tennessee Valley Commission was one of the leading the charge, right? Like, so thank you, Tar Heels.
Yeah. So if it was decided then during the industrial age, everyone needed electricity and it was important. Why is it any different now in the information age that internet access is out there for everyone in the country?
Okay, so and that's obviously rhetorical because it's not. And what bugs me about it is, and this was Dennis's point earlier, so credit where credit is due, is you would think we would just kind of know this lesson, right? Like, because we've already done it once.
Yep.
We already electrified the country, right? Like, so we've run lines, we've done the things we need to do, and actually there's significant potential for just not needing to run lines to deliver internet access.
Oh yeah, there's WiMAX has been around forever. I mean, but that's not delivering. That'll deliver those speeds at very short distances, but over the long haul it won't. But we were talking millimeter wave. That has a lot of potential. I mean, there's a few hurdles when it comes to weather and stuff, but even the bad weather conditions. I mean, I've read that they've been able to get up to 10 gigabits over millimeter wave. 1 gigabit is kind of very feasible to put into a city. I've heard in some bad weather conditions, it drops down to 100 MIPS. But still. I mean, I would be happy with that.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think this, movement or whatever you want to call it is going to bear itself out. And actually, I'll point you guys towards another resource that we'll link in there. If you want to know communities that may be in your state or in your local area that have started to take on these types of projects, there's a really cool site called muninetworks.org, and it's got a community map. It looks like it's built in Flash or something. It's all interactive where you can... Yeah,
you can select them, the different types of speeds, where they are, whether it's finished or not, because they also do like in progress municipal internet efforts.
One of the other interesting things is that, and this is probably the most important, is they highlight they show it as 19. I think I was seeing that it was 20 in some research, but I think it was dated, so they're, I'm sure, staying current. But 19 states that have, significant hurdles to any kind of community-based internet projects.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that comes down to, again, we talked about this a few weeks back, and I had a news blurb about a week or two ago on all the games that the local monopoly holders, like your Comcast, Time Warner, AT&T, they'll play, and how they'll use the law to their advantage. And I talked about pole attachment and how and how everyone who has an interest on the pole has to actually go out and move their wiring for some new startup ISP to come in and put their wiring on the pole. So if you have 4 different, interests, they have to go out there. Well, they'll play games, and I think it was Google Fiber needed 44,000 poles changed over a few months. They got 33 Done.
Yeah, and like just to put it in perspective, because I mean, like, you know, obviously Google's got massive resources and they've got their own lobbyists and everything as well. But let's assume for a second, it's a pretty big assumption that there's no, like, you know, malicious intent to like drag your feet on authorizing the use by some startup or Google to use the poll.
Oh, it's economic interest.
But let's just say for a second that wasn't the case.
But I know it is, Joel. I know it is.
But I can't get 10 people at work to come into a room and decide on what kind of pizza to order. You know, let alone...
And that's true. And I mean, I've sat in many meetings...
5 different companies to decide when we're all going to logistically move our stuff around on a bowl.
Oh, yeah. And that's like... And the funny thing is all those people want pizza.
Yeah, we're all hungry.
But they're sitting there and they're arguing over, like, some small little, like, cheese or extra cheese. You know?
Let's just get everything on it and pick it off. Let's do this thing.
And I mean, so, yeah, I'm sure there is some of that. But they and I would totally buy that, but they lobbied to, because immediately this actually happened in Tennessee as well, but not the state, because this is the funny thing about Tennessee, and we'll get into this a little bit later. The state of Tennessee is very, very friendly with the ISPs, and their municipalities really want to just service their people. And I mean, this was apparent to me when you had the attachment fee issue that happened in Nashville, where they decided that this attachment, I mean, the pole attachment issue, they decided that they wanted to streamline the system, and they voted to say, okay, anybody, you know, who wants to come out and, you know, and they're licensed and insured, and, you know, they want to install fiber optics, get a licensed independent contractor to go out and do all of the wiring on the pole, and Google is saying that that's going to cut time down 8 months.
Yeah, which
to get this done.
Tremendous.
And Nashville was for it, and it passed like overwhelmingly, much to the chagrin of AT&T and I think, well, I don't want to, I might be wrong. I think it was AT&T, but let's say ISP, you know, general ISP, because they threatened to sue, and it's not technicality. It passed overwhelmingly to come to the floor, which is a huge step, because then it'll get voted on, you know, in session, and it won't get tabled. So it has one more hurdle to pass before it goes through. But the ISPs threaten to sue if it does. So we'll see how that plays out. But to contrast, the other issue actually is related to the gig, because in Chattanooga they wanted to deliver the gig to some of the surrounding counties and rural areas where there is hardly any access, and they lobbied the FCC. And this is kind of like an ongoing story. They lobbied the FCC to kind of head off the ISPs at the pass, and to basically see if they could pass a law that would inhibit states making laws against municipal internet. So they go to the FCC, and I mean, you can jump in here, because I think you were reading up on this too.
So, like, I'm just busy burying my head in my hands on the topic. Like, so basically, what happened is the communities came to the FCC and asked them to exercise their authority to keep the states from preventing the communities from pursuing their own internet service
for municipal
purposes. And that is very confusing. But in effect, what it basically means is that the states were being lobbied by the incumbent internet service providers to not allow competition.
Oh yeah, and I got a list.
The FCC, yeah, exactly.
I got a list. I'll go on later.
There's
in the show.
Naughty list.
Oh, there is a naughty list of about 20 states that have laws on the books.
We're looking at you, Texas. Right?
I hope. Since you said it. No,
they're not the list. I swear.
I wasn't sure.
Texas.
I've looked at the list, but I didn't check it twice. So
yeah, exactly. Well, we'll confirm.
Yeah, but so they have so as Joel said, they basically went, FCC passed this law 2015. Internet goes wild. Everyone is ecstatic.
Yep.
Finally a victory against the ISPs.
People are kissing each other in Times Square.
They were. It was like that picture of all the troops coming home in
the deep dip
and the sailor kissing
DJ
that woman.
day.
You know, like there you go. Yeah. So it's exactly what it was like.
Yeah, well, maybe not.
Well,
the internet version of that.
Yes. Well, people were sitting at home in their underwear.
There were a lot of
in their head.
There were a lot of happy memes being passed around by Cheeto-fingered,
exactly.
people.
Right. But then, lo and behold, North Carolina was involved in this as well, because it was Chattanooga and I think
Wilson.
I think it was.
I'm almost certain you're right.
They appealed the FCC's decision, and the judges
ruled in their favor.
Ruled in the favor of the ISPs. So
yeah, it's the Sixth Circuit Court.
Sixth Circuit Court. That happened last month, actually.
Yeah, August 10th.
Very new. So I mean, and the funny part is with this, if you look at the chain of events, the fingerprints of ISP lobbies are all over this thing, all over it. Pretty much in North Carolina has, and the reason why North Carolina jumped on this is they actually have a law in the books that they put in 2011 that basically, and it's called, I love this, an act to protect jobs and investment by regulating local government competition with private business. And they did that to essentially make it impossible to do municipal internet. It's so many hurdles are in place that there is no way that you're going to get municipal broadband in North Carolina. So that's why they kind of jumped on this bandwagon. And now, when I was saying how the lobbyists have their finger all over this, the North Carolina General Assembly, when they passed this law, the bill was intended to kill a service that they were putting in. They were actually putting in municipal internet,
right.
And it was supposed to be 30 to 40% cheaper than what Time Warner was offering for the same speed. And they got lobbied by a PAC. A PAC, by the way, that donated $500,000 in campaign contributions to the state legislature.
So here's just an aside, right? When I was in school, in grad school outside of the DC area, I was in school with a lot of people from the Hill, right? Mm-hmm. And they said, and so this is just like public service announcement for anyone who, when you go to the community link that we were talking about to see whether your state has anything that is a barrier to municipality internet, the thing they said that made congressmen stand up and take notice more than anything else is you write a physical letter.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And you send it into your congressman, they pay attention.
They do. It's something about it. You're opening it, somebody took the time.
Man. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You took the time. If you took the time to write a letter in this day and age, right? Email they ignore. You sign a thing online or whatever, they ignore that too. But if you write a physical letter,
it's true,
and you tell them what their problem is, they know you're going to vote.
Well,
right? They know you care.
When I was 18, I actually had an internship with a state legislature, and this was 97, and so that it was, while email wasn't as big then, phone calls would get backburnered. Yeah. But if somebody wrote a letter, those were like priority.
Yeah.
And those got handled right away, and I'm sure
they always had a staffer call back, they said.
Yep.
They always paid attention to whatever that issue was because somebody cared.
Yes. And That's what we need to do. You need to start
Drop a line.
hounding these folks because they're representing us.
And I will tell you, I mean, I'm
They
looking
should
at
be,
this.
anyway.
I'm looking at this map. I think, I've jokingly, poked at Texas, which I love Texas.
Oh,
so,
I do too.
Yeah.
I like their moxie. They'll do whatever they want.
I like their shrimp.
No, they're
Yeah, if you go down in the Gulf, there's shrimp, and then you get legit steaks. In Texas.
They don't mess
like
around.
we're from Maryland. We have beef, but it's not the same thing.
No.
But anyway,
We're more
Texas.
But a crab cake.
Our crab cakes
Look
are pretty awesome. But anyways, so like these are big states. I mean, Texas, I believe, is the second most populous state in the union.
I buy that.
I think California is the most.
Yeah, I think California's
and
the
I
most.
think Florida's the third, and Florida's on the list too. So I mean, like these are big states, right? Like with with barriers in place. So like drop your congressman a line if you think that internet access could be improved in your area with a little extra competition. Well, municipal internet is definitely a viable option for that. So what could it hurt?
Yeah, and we could probably deep dive into to this naughty list as soon as I can pull it up here. If you want, do you have it there? The whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I have the map, and I can go through at least a handful. So your Midwestern states are having a field day on this right now. So it's Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan are all noted as having barriers. But those of us in the Mid-Atlantic and the East Coast aren't doing much better. So Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, as well as Florida, are all on the list.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes they get creative. Like, I know Minnesota's is like 65% of the voters must approve things.
Yeah,
like,
and I will...
which is... It's hard to get 65% of the population to agree on anything.
Couldn't get that many to agree on what kind of pizza to get.
Yeah, Nevada's. Right? Listen to this, Nevada. Municipalities with at least 25,000 residents and counties with at least 50,000 residents may not provide telecommunication services.
Just straight up not provide it.
Period.
And
not internet. Telecommunication services.
Wow.
Period. Any type of telecom not allowed if you meet this population.
Now I will say, like these barriers, and Dennis just called out a pretty extreme one, right?
Oh yeah.
But these barriers vary. Right?
Oh, they are.
Like I was kind of skimming them, and so I have like cliff notes on them. But I know one of the major projects that's kind of going or getting close is in Colorado, and Colorado's on this list of states with barriers right now.
Yeah, they have a referendum rule as well.
Yeah, and so like it's not that these states aren't making progress in different areas, but they do, probably need a nudge,
yeah,
right?
And some of these laws, like you're saying, they're in better positions to change, not even change, but to be interpreted a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, because Colorado, while they do have the law there, it's just... They have to have a referendum, but it's just 50-50, which is, it's easy to get those through.
That's much easier.
But, the community also has to be unserved.
Yeah.
So there's that question of unserved.
Yeah, and that's a definition question.
Now, if you want to say...
get tricky.
Yeah, and I mean, you could do some creative stuff, like the FCC says broadband is 25 MIPS. You can make the argument that that's unserved if you're not getting broadband, which... kind of jives with what the president, what the White House is saying.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what the White House was saying.
I'm not sitting here with my Lenin hat on, saying rah rah rah. Everything needs to be.
You left that at home.
I did. I left it home today. I'm not sitting here with my Karl Marx beard.
Yeah, we don't all need equal access, is what Dennis's point is. But it would be nice for everyone to at least have options.
Exactly. And I'm all for fair and open business. But the way the internet service providers work in this country, it is the farthest from that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to get into technical definitions of monopolies, right? But, I mean, like, this is really what we're talking about. And... don't get me started on monopsonies. Yeah, look that one up.
I think I don't even know what kind of bingo we would play playing with monopsonies.
That's a fun one for all you economics wonks.
It's
all
economics
one
bingo.
of you. Yeah.
Does anyone have monopsonies out there? And people will say, I mean, well, who's going to pay for this mess? Who's going to pay? And to be honest, it's not even going to be that big of an impact, because a lot of times what they will do when they're putting this in is they'll bond out, they'll put out bonds.
Yeah,
and then,
which I'm a big fan of that type of thing.
Right. And then they'll pay off the bonds, but there's all this unrealized money, because they have these things called payments in lieu of taxes, which these utilities need to make, or the people that are going to be delivering it or managing it or profiting on this. And a lot of times the municipal broadband is actually putting money back in the general fund from the collection of these fees and service fees and everything else.
Certainly over a period of time they could be, right? Dennis brought this up earlier, right? So think about all of the locality-based functions.
Think about schools. Think about the police stations. Think about the fire departments.
They need internet access.
Yeah, and a lot of times they're going and buying a T1, T3 line, which is expensive to put in. And it is not like your standard internet where you're paying, X amount of dollars a month. Mm-hmm. It is thousands sometimes, depending on how much they have. And if you had...
Racks up.
Oh, yeah, because they need to deliver, to a huge, building. Mm-hmm. But if you had... municipal internet, that cost is negated.
Yep.
And imagine all the savings that you're seeing there. And then there's all kinds of economic, growth. And to get back to the Sixth Circuit Court, was it appeals court?
Sixth.
Yeah, the Sixth. I don't want to be totally unfair to the judges, because they need to interpret the law.
Yeah.
The way the law is written. And if the law is written, that's just the way the game is played here in this country.
Yeah.
And to their credit, the judge actually agreed with the municipality in all the logic on how it'll lead to job growth. Because he's actually quoted. He's saying, because he's talking about the gig here. He says the networks received uniform praise. Judge Rogers, to give credit where credit's due. He said, it's led to job growth and attracted businesses to the area. Most important, its introduction led the established internet providers to lower rates while increasing the quality of their services. Comcast, the local cable and internet provider, stopped raising its rates, which had risen sharply for years, and along with AT&T, vastly improved their speeds.
Which, honestly...
And that's the judge who's had to vote against the municipality.
He has to
rule against the municipality, rather.
That's the nature of the law. But, I mean, that, I think his point is probably more valid than anything I've said tonight, which is probably the most important thing out of these initiatives is that it injects competition into the market, right? Yep. And immediately what happens is these large interests, the monopolies, get to where they have to lower their prices or improve their services or both in order to be able to compete with this other service.
Right.
And that's the bottom line.
And I think what's really comical about that is what the judge said totally flies in the face of North Carolina in the name of that stupid bill.
Yeah. I mean, it defies reason. I've told you this before, that I believe fundamentally we should not put names on our bills.
Oh, they just do numbers.
Everything is the I love babies bill.
Oh, I know.
And
it's awful.
How you voted against I love babies.
Right. You voted against not punching
babies,
grandma in the face.
Right? Yeah. It's just terrible.
It's like what they did with the healthcare. It's like, it's killing grandmas.
It's killing grandmas. And that's just like a broad commentary on our
the way the sausage is made in the U.S. government and states governments.
So, but the one other quick shout out I wanted to give when we were talking about states that have barriers and that are working to get those pulled back. is in Colorado. I think I mentioned they have some, but they're trying to figure out how to work around that. And Fort Collins, which is a pretty big city, it's about 150,000 people. Hi out there if we have any listeners, which you never know. But they went ahead and voted overwhelmingly. 83% actually agreed on doing this.
Wow.
Yeah, which is pretty astounding.
If you can get 83% of a population to agree on something, there's gotta be something to that.
Either that or you think the fix is in, right?
Yeah,
like something's up, right? Like, but no, I mean, like the 83% came back and said basically what the way things were written at the time were that the localities did not own telecommunications infrastructure, and this clawed it back, right? Like this vote clawed it back in Fort Collins. And so, at least that's my understanding of it. So, Internet, feel free to correct me.
Oh, yes. Always. You can email us at podcast@groundedreason.com, and we will read your yelling at us on the air.
Yeah. Shameless plug for you yelling at us.
Yes. So, if you want to yell at us, please do. Over email. All caps, please. Thank you.
But yeah, so, I mean, like, that kind of thing is really great. And, you know, I'm hopeful that, and the number of projects, Dennis, that I've seen that are really starting to spit out. I mean, like I said, there's that one in Fort Collins.
I know U.S.Net. I think because Minnesota, actually, I think, is it Michigan? I'd have to look. I think U.S.Net up there, they have like a municipal broadband. It's really like taking hold right now.
Yeah, I think you were right.
Minnesota.
First time,
yeah,
it was Minnesota. The other one that was interesting. Or actually, let me go back to the Fort Collins one really quick. So you were talking about bonds as a
funding
method.
mechanism. Yeah.
And that is a fantastic method for providing the funding for, well, any infrastructure project. But another thing they did in Fort Collins was they did a feasibility study about this, and they evaluated different options for paying for it. And, you know, they went from everything from, you know, bond initiatives to straight, you know, just paying for it with taxes to some combination thereof, or private public partnerships, which are always interesting. And again, none of these things are mutually exclusive. You can do all of those together. Yep. I mean, you see it quite commonly when people do some, or a community does something like
it's better to hedge.
You establish a bond to pay for the infrastructure to build the toll road, and then you lease out the rights to do the operations and maintenance of the toll road, you know, to a private entity. You know, right. I mean, it's that kind of thing. So good on you, Fort Collins, and everyone else who's looking at it. It's one of the great things about our system is that we're going to see all these little experiments, and hopefully one of them really proves it out.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to, because, I mean, I don't want, you know, if there is a well-served community out there, then I don't really see a need for, you know, municipal broadband. If there's, like, good...
Yeah, if everybody's happy with what they got.
If people are happy with what they have, and there's good competition out there, and there's not one company dictating what the rates and speeds are going to be, fine. But then I'm talking about those areas that are underserved and they need something. Municipal broadband is a
underserved or overcharged.
Correct. And municipal broadband is a good tool in the toolbox to kind of you know, introduce, and it's proven to work. It's proven that every time
and
this
it's
happens,
not the only tool.
It's not,
but it's a good tool.
No, I would much rather have the laws be a little more open to allow other companies to come in and enter the space much easier.
Well, and I actually don't think, and maybe this is where you can touch on some of the stuff with what Google's looking at with some of its newer technology, but I doubt that municipal internet will be how we solve this, at least in its entirety.
Like, I think if anything, it'll put a little more competition in. It's good for the communities. I mean, that's all. I mean, that's been proven. I think when they put Chattanooga's the gig in place, it just brought a ton of tech jobs. And over the time since the gig's been there, Chattanooga has had the third highest wage growth of all mid-sized U.S. cities. Chattanooga is a post-industrial town, like, much like Baltimore, much like Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, Pittsburgh's had a bit of a renaissance lately.
Yeah.
Baltimore's getting there. We're getting a lot of tech jobs in there, but Chattanooga is really, really kind of coming to its own, and a lot of it's happened while they put this municipal internet in.
Yeah, and of course, correlation's not causality, but I mean, like,
it's quite a coincidence.
It does well, and it also makes some level of logical sense, right? Like, you need more engineers, you need more techies to be able to do this type of work.
Well, I mean, and certain people out there, they can just grab a computer and learn.
Yeah,
and just by using YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of self-taught IT out there, and they can go online and, code.org. You can go out there right now, learn a programming language.
Yep.
Just at home. Just go ahead and just run through the tutorials, and you can go and learn Ruby on Rails or, Node.js or some other nerdy thing that people don't care about.
I mean, probably some of the people that listen to this do.
I know.
And I think another thing that probably bears mentioning is, in Pittsburgh's probably a good example of this is, like, as localities start, invigorating their local infrastructure and building out their services, they can retain more of their local talent. I mean, if you think about Pittsburgh's got Pitt, Carnegie Mellon. I mean, those are some of the best engineering schools in the world.
Well, yeah, you move into a city, you're like, wait a minute, I can get gigabit internet, and it costs just as much as my 25 MIP internet I used to have, or my DSL running at 4 MIPs.
Historically,
they're going to stay. They're going to stay in that town.
At least if you go back in time, 10 years, 15 years or so, the thing I always heard about Pittsburgh is, like, local talent would leave, right?
Baltimore had that same issue.
Yeah, yep. and that's, at least, again, anecdotally, I mean, at least for me, please write in if you have a different experience.
Baltimore and Pittsburgh are two towns that are extremely alike, but hate each other because of football.
Yeah, and it's funny because their football teams remind me a lot of each other, but I'm probably going to get punched by a Baltimore fan.
Hey, I'm a huge Pittsburgh Ravens fan, and I will say I respect the Steelers.
I will say this. I grew up in the Maryland, D.C. area, and when I was a kid, the only team you could root for was the Washington Redskins, and I don't pay attention to the AFC.
All right, well, we digress. We did our football episode.
Yeah, there we go.
So, but let's get back to municipal internet, and I don't want to. We've been talking a lot about the the hurdles that are in the way. Let's sing some of the praises of some of the stuff that's really working out there, besides the Chattanooga gig.
Because there's quite a few, right? Mm-hmm. So a couple, just to kind of go through some high notes. I've already talked a lot about Fort Collins, and, I think that's looking good. Another one that's pretty big, believe it or not. It's like, I think the community is about 120,000 people. Is in, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, but I think it's Vallejo, California.
That's right.
And they are getting ready to, in fact, they've already issued maybe I mentioned this earlier, a request for a proposal that the
RFP.
Yeah, exactly, the RFP. I said it out this time. It comes
not an RFI?
Not a request for information, no. But it should be coming in any day now. Or no, I'm sorry, next month. So October 7th, not September 7th. And that is to provide internet access to that entire area. And then there's a bunch of others that are, let's see, I got a couple here. Our Canadian friends up in British Columbia, a place called Campbell River, which I don't know offhand, but it's a population of about 31,000. And they are looking to put in their own project there. So, way to go, British Columbia.
Well, they face a lot of the issues we have. I mean, it's a little cheaper, but I've talked to
It's a similar system.
I have some friends in Toronto, and we talk a lot, and they have a lot of the same gripes we do.
Yeah, and the nice thing here is it sounds like their federal government has actually stepped in with a grant through a thing that they call the Island Coastal Economic Trust to actually push for opening municipal access there. So, I mean, like that's
their legal system
idea.
Works it's a little more smooth.
Yeah.
You know, the companies aren't as entrenched, it seems, with they're there. They're there, but not to the extent that they are here in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, and then you've also got another big RFP going out there. This one's apparently come back, but I don't know the results of it. Sorry. But this is in Ohio, in Hudson, Ohio, for... it's a feasibility study, so much like...
Oh, that is very early stages.
Yeah, but again, much like Fort Collins, and typically the way these things seem to play out is about a year after a feasibility study comes in, you'll be seeing the results from another RFP that will go out. That is basically we've made our mind up on what option we're going for, and so on. So that's exciting. So you're starting to see these pockets all over the country and frankly all over North America where, municipalities are starting to figure out how to work around or with the actual legal structure that's already in place to inject some more competition. The other thing that I find particularly exciting about this is smaller communities. Because right now, when we're talking about things like Vallejo or Fort Collins or Chattanooga, those are all fairly large cities.
Oh, yeah, there's almost 200,000 people in Chattanooga. It's like 170, something
170.
Like that.
And so, Fort Collins is about 150, so it's about half the size of, say, Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and there is a ton of like small communities out there. Last night, this was a while ago, but I saw a stat. It was like there's about 400 different municipal internet. Now, some of those are, like the one
really tiny
you have in Howard County, and here are like 2,000.
Yeah, so Howard County, for those that don't know, is the neighboring county to us. I was actually surprised to see that going on. I didn't even know.
Yeah, it's a small little, like 2,000, municipal internet system that's there.
It's a step. But this is what I think is exciting, is as these projects get started, and Chattanooga is proof of this, smaller communities around these pilot projects will start to try and piggyback.
Yep. And that it does. It breeds. It sits there and like they'll see this community does it, and then a neighboring community, they're like, hey, we got to do this too. And it starts to spread.
They'll kick into the kitty, and next thing you know.
And it's not a commie plan, people. The Reds aren't going to come and take the country over just because we put some municipal internet in.
Not because of that.
Not just because of that. But I'm kidding, obviously. But if it comes to your town, support it. It's in your interest. If you're not getting good internet service, or you're not getting, affordable internet service, just support it. Even if you think your local township or state government isn't worth anything and they can't get anything done, just give it a shot, because it's probably better than what you're going to get with Comcast or some other big ISP that has the whole entire community to itself.
Yeah, and I just to reiterate that, I'd say let's say again you try the little tidbit I was throwing out there about like write a letter to your congressman.
Exactly.
Which do you think you'll have a higher success rate with? Write a letter to your congressman, or write a letter to the CEO of Comcast or Time Warner?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I guarantee you it's the congressman.
Yes. It'll be probably wind up used as toilet paper at Comcast, I would think.
Probably a bit generous.
Probably.
All right. So should we wrap this
I don't know. It sounds like we're done.
Yeah, because we're really, we've talked about it ad nauseum. We're really bad at closing these things out.
Yeah. So I think we're just going to close out by being bad at closing out.
So, yeah.
Later.
Yeah, what was that? Put that coffee down. Right? Coffee's for closing.
Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Later, internet people. That's turning a weakness into a strength. All right, if you enjoy the show, please subscribe. You can pick up your iPhone or iPad or whatever you're using right now. And if it's an iTunes, go ahead and just go to our show, hit the subscribe button. You'll get the show delivered every week. And when I do a news update, you'll get that too. So you'll get news regarding cord cutting and other technologies we discuss on the show. It'll come right to your phone if you subscribe. Be sure to check out the Money Girl podcast because I will be on there on Wednesday, as I said at the beginning of the show. We really want to hear from all you listeners out there. Let us know how we're doing. Got any questions or comments? If you have an idea for a show, send it our way. Again, email is the best way to do that. podcast@groundedreason.com, or you can tweet us, or you can go to the Facebook page. Make sure you tune in next week because we're going to be doing a how-to episode on an important topic that most cord cutters have questions about. We will see you then.